All right. I am joined with Alex Mezyad,
Yep.
psychotherapist of 10 years and business owner here in Boulder, correct?
Yep. Dignity Counseling and Wellness.
With your business partner, Katie Klum, who
Yep.
was on the podcast a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you do really interesting work. We were just talking about this, and it's a whole Pandora's box.
Yep.
So briefly, explain what you do.
So I'm a trauma therapist and I work with adult sex offenders, or I like to say men who've committed sexual offenses. They're men on parole and probation, and they receive court mandated treatment. So we're doing like group and individual therapy. And yeah, I've done that for 10 years.
So this is mostly men, like you said?
Yeah.
Are there any like women sex offenders?
I've had maybe 2 sex offender women, and then, or you're getting trans men, right? But mainly it's men who are committing these offenses.
Yeah.
Or women, but they're not getting caught.
And I think that this is so interesting because of how tabooed any conversation about sex offenders is. And you work with them as a therapist to try to help them. And I think you're like an angel. I get that kind of image. You're going into the trenches to end all trenches, to work with these people that are just, again, like you said before we started recording, perceived as scum of the earth.
Yeah. I mean, really, people think these are like one of the worst monster boogeyman kind of people. And I don't think people understand like why people commit sexual offenses. And it's a topic that I'm passionate about because it's men's mental health. So if we don't help men, right, men are committing most of the violent crimes in the world, then what are we really doing? Right? If we're not willing to talk to the person that's actually causing the harm, they're going to be in society anyways.
Yeah.
And then what does redemption look like for these kinds of people?
And it's like the cultural taboo against talking about sex offenders and sexual deviants. Like that doesn't help the problem. We don't we don't collectively understand it.
No, or we're coming from a place of fear, right? So we're accusing people of like, I feel like my pet peeve is people talk about sex offenders or men on the registry. And just so you know, I like to use person first language, which is men who've committed sexual offenses, but I'll just say sex offenders right now because it's like a little easier. But so I've gone to like a lot of like city hall or like community events where, of course, naturally people are really scared, but they're projecting a version of this person that probably doesn't actually exist. And that's why I want to talk about that. Yeah.
So first, I guess let's define what we mean when we say sex offenders. Or I like what you said. So people who commit like sex offenses, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So not identifying a person from
not giving them that. Yeah. You're not a sex offender. You're someone who committed a sexual offense. So there's a wide range of sex offenses. So it could be exposing, voyeuring, rape, downloading child abusive images, so child pornography, right? Non-consensual sex, so going home with someone, you're both drunk, and then you wake up the next day and you had sex, and that person says, hey, I didn't actually consent because I was drunk. And now you're a sex offender for that, which I'm not saying that that's okay, but it's very easy. It's easier than you think to become a registered sex offender because you're making decisions that are unhealthy.
And I was going to say, I know people who, again, are on the registry because of pissing in public when you're drunk.
Right. That too. Or let's say you're a 20-year-old and you're in a relationship with a minor, right? And even if you think that she's consenting, she's not consenting to that.
Not legally.
Yeah. Right. So let's say she's 14, 15 years old.
That's hella young.
Right. Yeah. But sometimes you have a 14, 15-year-old teen that thinks she's in love. Right. And now she's with a 20-year-old. And of course, like she can't consent to that relationship.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that this guy was like, like a rapist and he's trying to like,
Right.
So, but what I'm working on with him is like, why did you think that was okay to be in a relationship with a 15-year-old? Right. So different types.
And what we were talking about before that I kind of want to touch on is this notion of alcohol and how being drunk takes away your right to consent. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So if you're, even for you, like if you're drinking and you're with a woman, and I'm just talking about like heterosexual relationships, but it could be 2 gay men, lesbians, it doesn't matter. But if someone is drunk, they can't consent to sex.
Legally again.
They can't. So you're always going to see that in a court case, that even if the person says yes, they actually can't really consent. And again, because they can become unconscious later, or they're not like coherent in that moment. They're incapacitated, or maybe they're in and out of like you're having sex with them, but like 1 minute they're falling asleep, the next minute they're awake. So that's a lot of like the cases that I get.
I mean, honestly, pretty dark. I mean, I don't drink. I haven't drank in like 3+ years. I just think it's like poison for the mind, body, and soul personally.
I agree. I don't really drink.
But I just think it's interesting how there's this casual sex hookup culture that is wrapped around alcohol, and how actually legally, if you are drunk, inebriated, you cannot give consent as a woman or a man.
100%. Or you have, you know, here in Boulder, these like sex orgy parties.
Yeah.
Right. And people are on drugs and like they're drinking and they're like, oh, we're connecting to the divine feminine, whatever. Mary Magdalene's, I don't care. But you know what I mean? Then all you get is one time someone's like, I didn't actually consent to that. And
and that's huge, where it's like, I mean, already even thinking about this, how much of a gray area there is.
There's so much gray area.
Like, fuck. It's like people are just kind of like, the phrase "they had us in the first half" comes to mind, because like there's no solidity in this. Like, it's like if a woman just, you know, she has sex, she thinks it's cool, and then the dude's like, "Yep, I called your Uber," and she's like, "What?" And then she's like, "Actually, I didn't consent to this." Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Both of which can be true, right?
Yeah,
but it's like,
and this might be an unpopular thing I'm going to say, but I personally believe that, yes, some of my clients come in there and they definitely like they raped somebody, or the girl was unconscious and they shouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
And then I think some people are going home with a woman that's not healthy. She could be manipulative, or you're doing a on again, off again relationship and someone's feeling spiteful. You know, now I'm not victim shaming, like all that stuff. It's really uncommon for that to happen, because most victims don't want to go through the whole court process, right? Who wants to drag themselves through court, through trial, through all those things?
And the sort of public awareness of I was, you know,
raped
or sexually
right.
or whatever.
But you know, like it can take away from the Me Too movement for people who will say, well, he raped me, and then recant it. Right? Recanting meaning like I'm taking it back. That didn't really happen. So I always tell my male clients, or just my male friends, know who you're going to bed with.
Yeah.
Is this a healthy person? Is it worth it? Right? Is it really worth going home with this person?
And I think, I mean, where my mind goes, because I guess kind of did a recording on conditioning, is this part of us, especially men, that is seeking validation from sex.
Yeah, because we're, you know, a lot of it's coming from insecurity, right?
Exactly. This fact that a lot of men, including me in the past, like I didn't have myself. I hated myself. And I was like, oh, if you know, a cute girl likes me, maybe I'm enough.
Right.
And it's like it starts to be like a drug. And now I'm conscious of it, and obviously
you have power.
Exactly. Now you have
power. You feel empowered. Right.
And obviously in hindsight, looking back on my life, it's like I don't need shorty to like me to be enough.
Right. Right.
Obviously.
Exactly. Like, right. And same, right? Like for her on her end, right? It's like, oh, there's value now to me as a person.
And it's like that unconscious conditioning where it's like that is the dominant stream of the culture, like this kind of, you know, college frat boy hookup type scene. It seems so universal, and the question is why. Like,
right, well, it's all objectification, right? Like everyone's just pretty much showing half of their body online, and then everyone is like, oh no, I'm just loving myself. You know what you're doing. You know,
getting the likes.
Yeah, you're getting the likes, right? It's a dopamine hit.
It is. And the thing is, we can kind of, I don't want to use the word bypass, because obviously that carries a certain connotation, but we can sidestep the need for the validation externally and just give it to ourselves. And it sounds like profound and like, oh, that's deep. It's not, though. It's like we carry the keys to our freedom.
Yeah.
And we say, only if I have you know, a beautiful partner, or, you know, 6 figures in the bank, or a certain status, then I unlock my own ability to love myself.
Right. Well, what you're talking about is attachment, right? So people have to go and do their attachment work.
And so this might be a good segue into, I mean, attachment work as well as shadow. And I'll leave it to you to see where you want to take it.
Yeah. So do you want me to talk about like attachment with how I work with like my sex offense clients with that, or?
Let's start with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say my experience, a lot of these men, are coming from households when they were younger that are very dysfunctional. Now, there's also like a misconception that people who've committed sexual offenses have gone through sexual abuse. That's not actually a statistic. Yes, a lot of these guys may have gone through sexual abuse, but usually it's maybe there's not a dad in the household, right? Or there's like alcoholism in the family. So then you start to grow up, or you're insecure and you didn't have resources as a young boy to talk about this insecurity, right? So then you grow up and you're like, great, my value is based off of sex, or I didn't get a parent's love, or it felt really conditional, right? Or there's a lot of secret keeping, right? I don't think that there's actually safe spaces for boys to have conversations about sex. Do you feel like, how did you learn about sex from your friends, right? Or like porn?
Dude, to be honest, I forget, some point in middle school, it's like the whole class discovered jacking off. Or like, and it was like, yo, this is so dope. Check this shit out. And I remember that's kind of how I learned. And in hindsight, like I never had any male figure. My dad have that like maybe slightly awkward conversation for like a moment. You know what I mean? And it's like, no shame on him. I mean, he was doing shit and it's conditioning, right? It is conditioning. Right. So it's like, you know, I'm not going to point the finger at an individual, but the culture, again, sort of, I think, pushes away those like awkward conversations.
Right. And then guess where that goes? Shadow.
Right, because there's shame around it. Instead of shining the light of our awareness on, hey, sex is natural, right? Like, you got a dick, it gets hard when you're at a certain age. Like, what do you do with it? You know what I mean?
Right. And then the shame leads to the isolation. So now I'm just watching porn all day as like a 16-year-old boy. Yeah. Right. And now I'm addicted to porn. And now when I go and have sex with someone, I think it's going to look like how it did on the porn video. And then I get disappointed. Yeah. Right. And then I'm not actually like connecting, and no one's having these conversations with these like 16-year-old boys. And probably the 16-year-old doesn't really, who they don't want to talk to their mom about that.
Right. They need a strong masculine figure who's not afraid of a difficult conversation.
Yeah. And this is the other thing. I think men need to lead men. I see so many, and not to say that like women can't be men's coaches. I certainly work with a lot of men. But I'm like, no, men need to teach men how to be men, not women. Like, get out of that role.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know really. And I say this to my clients all the time. The reason I love group therapy is because the guys hold each other accountable. And they're probably going to listen to each other more than they're going to listen to me. I'm a woman, right? Yeah. And it's not to say I don't have knowledge.
Right.
But I'm not the role model.
And I had this sort of polarity coach on a while back, and he says that men lean on the feminine for that strength, that support, that guidance, when at least from his lens, that feminine energy is inherently tends to be chaotic, not grounded in the same way, where men need men for that solid support, for men of all ages who've been there, done that, people that you can lean on, as well as people who lean on you. Like that community where like, I have meaning, I have purpose, I'm a part of something bigger. And I think that's also, I just did a solo one about individualism and how we get locked up in this solo experience of who I am. And we don't have these deep connections with community in general, but especially other men, where we can have those vulnerable conversations. Yeah. And talk about things like, you know, sex, or, I mean, it would be more vulnerable, but the sexual deviance, you know?
Right. Like, where do you go to talk about that?
Where they go to you.
Well, they go to me when they're in trouble.
Yeah, right. Other than that, like literally,
like I want them to talk about it before. I don't want anyone getting in trouble.
And that's where I guess we can move the conversation into shadow, where there seems to be a collective shadow in regards to sexual deviance, which seems to be feeding the issue itself.
Yeah. So I can share a little bit about how I got into this work, right? Because it kind of relates to the shadow. So, you know, I had my own trauma and personal stuff growing up, you know, around sexual abuse or just trauma in general. And when I went to Naropa and I got my master's there, when I was looking at internship sites, I wanted to at first work with like victims of sexual abuse, which I later did do that. But when I saw the sex offender site, I was like, oh, I kind of hate men. and I don't like men right now. Yeah. And I want to understand why men are committing sexual offenses, and I can either go and learn and do that work and kind of heal in my own way, or I can continue to go down this narrative and this myth of like men suck and they're all violent and they don't care about women and children. So to me, that was my shadow work, because I was projecting so much onto men of like, you freaking suck, you're a shitty guy, like you're egocentric, you're narcissistic, right? That word. So I went and did that, and then I found myself in all their shadows, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to help you understand yourself and understand like why you're doing that. And I'm not afraid to talk about it with you.
What do you mean when you say you found yourself in their shadows?
I mean, they're literally talking about the worst thing they have ever done in their life. They have so much shame. They don't want to talk about it. And I'm literally sitting there with them every week saying, we're going to talk about what you were masturbating to. Why did you download child pornography? All their secrets that they've been hiding for, let's say, 5 years, and then they finally got caught, right, in their offending behavior. Who wants to talk about that? Like, it's literally in the shadows, right? So I'm talking about people's secrets and desires that has never come out until right now.
I mean, it's almost like the shadow to end all shadows.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know if it can get lower than that. You know what I mean? Quote unquote, lower than that. Just culturally speaking. You know what I mean? Like, I think sexual deviance, it's different. It's like almost deeper, darker than even like murder is what it feels like to me sometimes.
Well, and that's interesting. And then like a lot of my clients will say that. They'll say like, wow, I'm considered worse than like a murderer, and a murderer took a life.
Literally.
Right?
Why is that?
Well, I partially, I think it's like how things are being portrayed in media, right? Like, I think that someone who commits a sexual offense, what people don't understand is like, a lot of people don't wake up and say, I want to commit a sexual offense. A lot of offenses are opportunistic. So an opportunity presents itself, or sometimes it doesn't stem from a sexual place, is what people don't understand. It stems from like a need. So I'm always trying to ask my clients, what was the need that you weren't getting met? I wasn't getting connection. I wasn't getting intimacy. I wasn't feeling confident in life. And I think what I was saying earlier to you about eroticized rage is men are taught how to express themselves in two ways, through sex or through anger. So a lot of times it's like, oh, I got rejected by this person. I'm going to now like dominate you and like take the control back. And then you're acting out sexually. You may not even be, you know, horny or sexual in that moment, but that's the only way you know how to get your power back, because you're a man.
Whoa. So are there alternatives to this that you teach people as far as expressing? I mean, I know that there are, but in your words, how can we teach men to express emotions with something that isn't as destructive as rage or, you know, sexually acting out?
Right. Well, as you know, like, first it's really hard with guys and emotions, right? And like just saying like, how are you going to like express yourself? Guys don't want to do that a lot of time unless they're like maybe more integrated. So I'm always at first focusing on like the behavior. Like, why does this behavior make you feel good? You're chasing a dopamine hit usually, right? So when people, let's say like, I mean, I don't know like what your sex life is or like porn stuff, but a lot of times people are going on watching porn, then they feel like shit about themselves, so then they're in shame, right? How do they get out of the shame? They go back to where they got the dopamine hit.
So
they go back to more porn.
What?
Right? Or more drinking, right? Like whatever it is.
Yeah.
So essentially I'm saying you're trying to just feel good about who you are as a person.
Damn, that's wild.
What are pro-social things that you could do in your life to just feel better as a person, to feel more confident?
Beautiful. So just for clarity for me, like, I mean, back when I was in like high school, you know, porn all day. It was like, I remember in like middle school, it was like, oh, we got winter break. I'm gonna see how many times I can jack off in a day. Like, I think I
guys are
like
competitive with themselves. Yeah,
it's kind of
guys
insane.
do that stuff. They tell me that all the time. My clients, they're like, I did 12 times. I just wanted to see if I could. I'm like, okay, but you could have like been working on your car.
Literally, no, it's hilarious. So I don't do that anymore.
Okay, good.
So I try not to even watch porn. I do occasionally as like a little treat, but I'll maybe like
a little treat, nice.
So I don't have like. I mean, my name is like Spiritual Fuckboy on this podcast, but it's like I'm not even really like that. Like I it comes in waves. Sometimes I want to really connect and be social, usually like, you know, spring and summer type vibe. Right. Then in the winter, like honestly, I could care less. So the sex drive is like much lower. And it's interesting. I also have been doing this kind of semen retention practice where I don't nut like at all.
Yeah.
And I haven't done it for like 5 months. And it's, well, at this point, no, it's more like 3 months. But Yeah, I see sort of, there's a feeling in your body.
Well, yeah, you're putting the energy back in there.
Yes, not even about the retention, but about like porn, or I would say even casual sex.
Yeah.
Where there's like a feeling in your body that is it doesn't feel good. And it's like, for me, I don't know. It doesn't feel like shame to me with like even porn or casual sex. It's more like, what did I really need? Why did I do that?
Right.
You
or
know
like,
what I mean?
what would you describe the feeling after that doesn't feel good for you? If it's not shame for you, is it like,
I don't nut? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel fine. Like, I don't know. Like, that's literally how I feel.
But what keeps you away from it?
Away from nutting or from?
Yeah. Or from like looking on the porn all the time now. And like,
just like you kind of said, I have other things to do that I find lots of fulfillment in, like creating my brand, doing this podcast, doing like my meditation practice, working out, like all of playing guitar, like all of these things. Like, it's, yeah. So I could either like, beat off and eat junk food and play video games. That's like, seems to be one path. We can really just summarize it.
Doesn't really
as like,
lead you anywhere.
like escapism.
Yeah.
Escaping something. And then we have another path of like personal development or growth, or pursuing goals, passions. And it's interesting from a sort of depth psychology lens, which I love. I love like Carl Jung, James Hillman, and they talk about anxiety, for instance. We can view it as, in a poetic sense, sort of the daimon, the messenger from God trying to tell you something. And that anxiety is, well, we have to suss out what it's trying to tell us. So what is the daimon, aka this feeling in my body, this anxiety trying to tell me? So we can either reject that feeling and turn to alcohol, porn, or just escapism in general, video games, whatever. Or I can listen to that anxiety and be like, what is this telling me? Hey, maybe it's like, hey, you need more financial security. You need to focus on your career. You need to focus on your body. You need to focus on your mind. And it's like, if you listen to it from that lens, that anxiety, and I've found this to be true, the only thing that helps with that anxiety is getting that shit done and being able to be proud of the life that I'm living.
100%.
If I'm not proud of the life I'm living, all the more reason to just keep escaping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the thing is that what you're doing that most people don't do, that my clients actually do now, is you have awareness of what your triggers are and what's leading you to unhealthy behaviors. And then you're aware of what you need. So with my clients, they're in therapy and they're learning what's called risk factors. Risk factors are what led you to offend in the first place, and let's avoid those things.
Are these court mandated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so probation, parole, they have to be there, which can be kind of hard at first because sometimes you're getting someone that's in denial. Yeah. And or like, can you imagine how hard it is to talk to a woman about the horrible things that you've done, or like sit in a chair and like, okay, tell me what you masturbated to last week. Like, it's awkward, right? Yeah, you know what I mean? But there's something called the Good Lives model that we teach our clients, which is there are 10 or 11 goods that each person needs in life in order to live a balanced life. So you just kind of said it. Balance between work and play, intimacy, friendship, community, creativity. And I go with them through each good and I say, what was lacking when you were offending with each of these goods? Wow. And what can you do now to contribute in a positive way to get these goods met? And then that's the pro-social plan that's going to lead them to a path of not re-offending again.
So just to summarize, it sounds like people are offending because their cup is empty in some sense.
Yes, and a need is not getting met.
A need is not getting met. And what you're doing is actually identifying skillful ways to meet those needs.
100%. Now, of course, I'm also assessing risk. So if I do think that I have worked with people who are antisocial personalities, like sociopathy, right? Maybe some of those people can't be rehabilitated, because people always ask me this question, can they be cured?
So what do you do with those people that can't be rehabilitated?
So it's a few things. You're assessing their risk. Does this person have empathy? Do they have remorse? Are they violating their terms and conditions? I have revoked clients before. Revoked means is I'm taking away your probation, parole, and like you're probably going back to prison.
Damn.
Right?
Do you tell them that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very transparent, and it's not like that has happened a lot. So I'm more just like giving the community some, I guess, like comfort in knowing that most of these men that are on probation, parole, they're heavily supervised. They're in treatment. They're fathers. They're young guys. It doesn't matter what age they are, but they're actually doing the work. And Sex offenders have one of the lowest recidivisms out of any type of offender because they have so much shame. They do have remorse. They do have empathy. They're constantly getting treatment. And the ones that are not, they're usually either back in prison or they're violating their terms and conditions and they're not around here for very long.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can't fix a personality disorder. So they're just going to live their life. But they're probably not likely to reoffend.
So where my mind goes is, what can we do as a culture to create the conditions where these sex offenders just it doesn't arise, where the sexual deviance doesn't come up? Is that possible? Like, again, I think of conditioning of shame, where, like you said, there's no way to talk about this. So if you have this inclination where you're getting, again, this certain need met through some act of sexual deviance, if we're not talking about that, people don't express it, it makes me think of this notion of repression leads to obsession. And then we have these people that are obsessed with this. And it's like, so I'm wondering, what can we do as a culture to help these people? Or are we just objectively going to be stuck dealing with this?
Gotta help our little boys and our teenage boys.
How?
So, I mean, I've offered to go into schools to say, hey, can I talk to your graduating 18-year-old class about how easy it is to become, catch a sex offense? They're not really that interested.
Really?
No, because they're like, you're going to put that in their head. That's like a very dark topic. That's not very common. And I'm like, it is common. They're going to have sex anyways. They're going to go to these parties. They're going to drink. Right? Or maybe they're watching porn. Right now, there's so many I'm getting like a lot of 18 to 20-year-olds watching child porn.
What?
Yeah.
18 to 20-year-olds?
18 to 20. And guess what? What people also don't realize is a lot of people who watch child pornography are not attracted to children. Yeah, right? That's confusing.
Wait.
How and why?
Yeah. I think I've heard about this. It's a taboo thing. Right?
So
it's like,
yeah, so for example, do you like to watch hockey?
No.
Some people like to watch hockey because they get to beat the person up, right? And they get to fight. Or do you like to watch war movies or like serial killer stuff?
Yeah.
I love serial killer documentaries. I could never kill somebody, right? But I'm kind of getting off on watching this.
And are you kind of getting off on the sexual deviance bit?
With my clients or
like with your work? Just like the thrill of it.
I mean, I'm not personally, but what's interesting is when I first started internship, my boss was like, I'm just going to say something that's kind of off color here. Be aware that you're going to be talking about sex all day. You might start to feel aroused.
And do you?
Well, I used to. Now I'm like kind of burnt out on like the topic. But at first I would feel like, oh, shoot, like we're talking about like sex and like all this like violent stuff and like you're choking somebody out. And like I'd be like, oh, man, I'm feeling a little excited here. And I'd be like, no, this is like fucked up. Why am I? Yeah. But it's just the brain. It's like you're just like talking about sex.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that. This is the human psyche, which does not fit necessarily the culturally conditioned mold of how that psyche should look.
Right. Yeah, but like going back to this, so what happens is you get a lot of young guys that are watching a shit ton of porn, and basically they're getting a dopamine hit, and then the brain is saying, you know what, this is a blue cup. I mean, it's a pretty dark blue cup, but this is not interesting to me anymore. I need a darker, more vibrant blue. Then they start going down the rabbit hole and they run into child pornography and they're like, what is that? Their brain just got a dopamine hit. It's very taboo. They just saw something and they're like, oh, that's interesting. And now they're hooked. Now they're addicted to it. They're addicted to maybe the role playing of it all, or they go back and they feel like shit and they're like, oh gosh, like I like it, but I don't at the same time. They're not actually attracted to kids in real life. They're attracted to this like fantasy scenario that doesn't exist. But the thing is that that's a real person, that's a real victim, that's a real child that's being exploited and abused. And that is somehow going over that person's head. So then they come to me in treatment. They're young. They're like, hey, I've been watching porn since I was 8 years old. How did that happen? How did you get access to a computer? Now you're addicted. But they're attracted to adults. They wouldn't, a kid, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, so it's exposure too.
My mind is going to like more existential places with this.
Yeah.
Where it seems like, again, so when you're constantly bombarding the system with certain stimuli, you need that relative high to feel anything, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, what is the effect of, constant exposure to sex and porn? it's like more of that extreme like that need for deviance to feel anything, to find that same high. It's like smoking crack. You know, you'll get a tolerance to a certain amount of crack, and you keep upping the dose.
Exactly, the tolerance is higher,
right? So the tolerance is higher, and where my mind went hearing you speak was the beauty, and I think the necessity of simplicity, slowing down. And for me, it's contemplative practice like meditation. Like when life, there's so much, even when you have so much, people with enormous wealth consume so much experiences, stuff, whatever, it becomes like meaningless. You don't feel it, and you need more. And then you have, I mean, let's just say Epstein's Island. Like, let's be honest. And what happens through meditation or the conscious intentional practice of simplicity that I found in my life is life gets its magic back. And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean I have to go to Bali to find it.
Right.
It means it's right here always when the mind is like slow and simple. And that's the thing, that is not taught. And especially in the age of infinite
we always
consumption.
need more.
Even with like content, material, TikTok, Instagram, these reels. Like,
well, you're just getting a beginning and an end very quickly, a dopamine fix. And that's why when these guys are on probation, like, we pull a lot of things from them. We're like, you can't watch porn. You can't drink. You have to be sober.
How do you make sure that they don't watch porn?
You know, at the end of the day, like, it's the honor system.
Right.
Right. But their computers and their phones are monitored. So I can see everything that they're texting and doing, everything they're looking up online. I've seen a few dick pics that they're sending to their partner. And I'm like, okay, well, like, be careful. I can see what you're doing. Yeah. So they're heavily restricted. But in a way, it's good because they're essentially cleaning themselves of all these things.
That purification almost.
Yeah. And like, but I also think like, okay, sometimes they still need to masturbate to something. Sometimes. Yeah. You know? So I'm like, okay, I don't know if you need to go watch Game of Thrones or whatever. Like, maybe don't watch the incest part, but you know, so I'm not anti like going and like watching porn.
Yeah.
I'm saying let's balance that out and figure out, why are you always going to this thing? That's the issue, is that we don't have balance.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's what was coming to my mind is like this. I mean, in Buddhism, it's the whole middle way, right? The middle way between extremes. That is the optimal path.
Right. We're gonna objectify, right? Sometimes you get certain like therapists or treatment providers that are like, you can't objectify, that's bad. I'm like, you have eyeballs.
What do you mean when you say objectify?
Okay, so I'll say to a client, like, all right, you see a girl walking around in leggings, tight, nice ass, whatever. Maybe don't stare for like 5 seconds. You know, like, that's a little too long.
3
Look,
seconds. She's
a woman, she's somebody's daughter, move forward with your life, right?
Yep.
But you can acknowledge beauty.
Right.
Like, I'm not, to me, like, we're natural human beings. You're going to know if that's how we first examine people. What do you look like? Are you clean? Are you hygienic? Like, but people are like, no, that's awful. Like, look at the soul. That's not how we operate as people.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's not realistic.
Balance, right? Because like, I'm thinking about, you know, shorty with a nice ass and leggings, and I'm like, would I be looking? I mean, like, yeah, like, come on.
You'd be lying to me if you're not.
I'd be lying to you. And it's like, it makes me want to clap. You know, sometimes I'm just like, God is good. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean I have to be weird about it, though.
Right,
like,
right, exactly.
There is a line there. And it's like, you can almost feel that too, where it's like, okay, so this is me riffing. I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but it's like, in just social dynamics, you're feeling energy, right? So like at the gym, at a show, going out, whatever, you feel if people are watching you, you know, if people are giving you attention, right? And there is an edge of like liking a certain amount of attention from others, and then there's that point where it's too much, and it's like, you can just feel that if you just pay attention. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And being able, like, again, what am I getting from like looking at a beautiful girl? Like, really, it's beautiful. It takes my, you know, it takes my attention.
Yeah.
And there's something I think beautiful, and we could view it from the spiritual lens, where it's like you're honoring the beauty of the cosmos itself. Right. So we can honor that view, but not, you know, fall into the more, I guess, destructive, grimy, clingy, really,
or creating so much meaning about it. Oh, she must like me, or I wonder what it's like to like take her to bed. Right. And I'm like, just move on from the thought. That's the mindfulness. Yeah. Like, why did you need to now create a whole story in your head about her? Exactly. Mindfulness. So the Pali word that the Buddha would use is papancha. So it's like you have an experience and the mind proliferates
on like this web of stories. Oh, I wonder if she likes me, and that means I'm the shit, and that means I'll take her to bed and it'll be so fun, and then everyone will think I'm cool, whatever. So it's like this web of stories that comes out of a really base raw experience of like shorty's fine, great, we can appreciate that without making it weird. And it's kind of like a transaction where it's like beautiful girls, like I found, like to get that recognition. Like if something classy, like if I was going to make a move on somebody, like literally just so simply, if you just tell someone that they're beautiful, low risk. And it's like, it doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. You don't have to
you don't have to do the next step. Like you can just say, yeah, I think you're a beautiful woman, thank you, bye, leave.
Exactly.
I think women sometimes we can feel afraid to like, oh gosh, this guy's gonna come talk to me now, and like this is annoying
because of all the weird clingy like starving masculinity, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I've had guys be like, yo, yeah, you're attractive, thank you, bye. But like it, and then I move on, and they move on, and it's okay, but I'm not like offended.
Yeah
it's fine.
And that's the thing, there is like, I think when we get out of the mind and into the body, there is this innate desire to connect. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean, like, again, if I say somebody's beautiful, that can be a fact, right? But it doesn't mean I have to then pursue them more deeply. And there's something in the body which I found to be true, which actually can start to recognize chemistry, just the subtle way that people move, the way that they speak. You sort of see, it's like, should I push this a little bit? Should I just see, hey, do you want, like, are you like single? Do you want to like go get a coffee or something? You know what I mean? So there's that organic kind of quality to connection. And it reminds me of Taoism, just kind of being in the flow, in the Tao. Don't think too much. Don't get caught up in the stories. Feel into your heart.
Right.
And it's like, if a beautiful person pops up in front of me, sometimes like it takes your breath away. You're like, whoa, yeah, you're beautiful. What? And it's like, so there's like so much nuance in this conversation.
Right. And there's also like boundaries, right? That's the other thing that I teach my clients. It's like boundaries, and you have to have enough self-awareness to know how you're impacting somebody.
Interesting.
Right.
It is a lot about self-awareness.
So much self-awareness. I mean, a lot of men are not sitting there thinking like, how am I impacting this person? Am I feeling insecure in this moment? Am I just like acting out? So that's another piece of it too. And then I think the hardest part about this kind of treatment that people don't realize is that when this person's coming to you, yeah, there's so much shame, and you have to be willing to see their humanity to know that this is not inherently a bad guy. Have I worked with some clients that I think are not great, right? But yeah, I'm not working with like these R. Kelly, P. Diddy kind of Epstein characters. Some, yes, I've had some maybe like intense situations where I'm like, this is not a safe person. But mostly these are young guys who are married, who have dreams, who are now on a sex offender registry. And people out there are going to say, well, too bad they made that decision. They decided to download the child pornography, or they decided to take that person home. Okay, sure. I agree. There was impact. It was awful. But now how do they have redemption? How do they contribute back to society? So you mean to tell me if somebody takes accountability, has remorse, is actually growing and integrating, they're not allowed to ever heal and be okay and considered a good person in society? I mean, to me, to honor a victim who has been on the receiving end of harm is to have this person who's causing the harm to be healed and to move forward, to be a good person in society so that they're not harming another person again. Most victims want that.
That makes sense to me. And again, what we keep running into, I think, is this collective conditioned shadow. Where, again, this is the bottom of the bottom. Like, no one even, like, I remember, so when I was looking at internships as a therapist, I saw an internship about working with sex offenders, and I remember being like, thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
Right, I don't know if I can do that.
And now speaking with you, it's like, I really do see this image of like, you're like an angel going to the darkest place. Like, literally, the darkest place, for treating all those people that are left for dead. Fuck them. The kind of people that get, murdered in prison. Like,
well, it's the hero's journey. And I like to call it to my clients, it's your shadow's journey, right? So do you know what the hero's journey is?
I do, yeah.
Right? So you're like the ordinary world, refusal of the call. So I always say to my clients, at some point you refuse this call to heal. And now you're here, you're meeting the mentor. I'm the mentor. And now you're on this path of healing, and you're going to do like the return of the elixir. You're going to come back integrated, not fully healed, because healing's forever, in my opinion, right? And essentially that's the real honest work. So when a lot of people say, oh, I could never work with sex offenders, I kind of challenge that a little bit. I'm like, you can work. I mean, some people, maybe they're sensitive to the topic, which I respect.
Yeah. But and we were talking about this a little bit before. I like hearing you speak about this. It makes me actually want to, because it seems like such a potent portal for my own like personal growth and integration of all. Because again, like you were speaking to a little bit before, our perception and our relationship of those sex offenders is inevitably linked to our own culturally conditioned shadow of sexual deviance. And again, I think that I know there can be such a deep level of like healing and purification in the individual, meaning the clinician, right?
Well, and it's not all bad and not all good, right? I'll tell you right now, I usually feel very safe when I'm in a group with my sex offense clients. I probably feel safer and trust them more than someone on the street. Literally, like in my Denver office, I have to get into an elevator with them when we go downstairs, and it'll be me in an elevator with 7 of my sex offense clients, and they literally would do anything to protect me. There's like a substance abuse like treatment like room down the hall, and some guy was screaming at the therapist. I went out there, and the guy tried to attack me, and like 6 of my clients went out there and like took him and like threw him out the building.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I was like, because they got my back. Like, I'm not sitting there with these guys that are like looking at me and like trying to like harm me. Like, I trust them. And they're actually more probably trustworthy than most people because they're getting so much treatment. They probably know themselves better than most Naropa therapists.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Shout out Naropa. I mean, I know you're a Naropa grad. I'm a Naropa grad. We won't go too deep into it, but there is a shadow side to spirituality, especially in higher education, let's put it like that.
Yeah, and like a messiah complex.
And like spiritual bypassing. And yeah, I wonder, would you feel comfortable kind of sharing how people related to just seeing that you were interested in working with sex offenders while you're at Naropa?
Yeah, so this was like almost a decade ago, but a lot of my classmates were triggered. Some were really supportive. They were like, why would you want to work with that population? What's happening in you that you're not looking at that, you know, whatever it is. And to be honest, I think they were just triggered in not being able to see their own biases and their own stories that they're putting onto somebody, like all men are bad or all men that do this thing, you know, is awful. And I didn't really get that much support at Naropa. I got really judged, or they would say, I can't hear about your internship experiences. This is triggering my trauma. And of course I'm sensitive to their trauma, and I wasn't saying anything that intense, but I started to feel how my clients felt. I became outcasted and like the black sheep, and all of a sudden people call me a sex offender lover therapist, or like, oh, maybe you should really re-examine why you want to continue working, what's unresolved within you.
Who's supposed to work with these people?
Exactly.
What the fuck?
Exactly. Well, to me, I'm about community safety and helping victims. And just to be clear, I've done, I think I told you this, what's called high impact dialogues, where when it's a safe situation, the victim will come to us and say, I want to approach the person that harmed me, and I'll facilitate a conversation with probation, other therapists, and between the offender and the victim, and it's really healing.
For sure.
And that's what we call restorative justice.
Yeah.
So how do we actually bridge the gap? And just a lot of Naropa people they didn't understand why I wanted to do that.
And I think that's, again, so beautiful that you go into that deep, dark, really tight, painful shadow of, you know, society, the collective, whatever. And you do that healing work, not looking away, not pushing away these people. And this topic of restorative justice, I think, is really interesting. And it's cool that you do that from the sexual deviance lens, because I've heard certain teachers, professors of mine that do it from the race lens. Well, they'll go to places like in the Deep South and have like dialogues between, you know, historically marginalized and oppressed communities and then the oppressors. Right. So like, and how healing that is. So again, see the humanity in others. And I think that's what we're missing. The human mind, or the collective, is so quick to just put up this boundary and say, that's not me. Yep. That's not me. That's them.
Yeah.
To other somebody else. Disconnect ourselves from the humanity of other human beings, you know? And then we have all of these cascading problems as a result. you know, where like war, genocide, injustice, it all makes more sense when they're not human like I'm human. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And what's interesting is like sometimes my clients will actually do that to each other. They'll say like, I'm not as bad as that other client because I didn't touch a kid.
Mm.
Right. So like we're constantly doing it. Or like sometimes I'll get really religious men who are anti-gay people. And I'll say, but you watch lesbian porn. Right.
That's allowed.
Right. So I'll say like, so you can watch lesbian porn, but they can't get married. Right.
Yeah.
So we're constantly othering each other, and they have to be challenged with these distorted thoughts. And again, we all do.
So going to these existential levels, I'm just so curious, why is that? Why do we separate ourselves?
I think we're naturally always wanting to be better or to feel like a better person than the other person because we're trying to avoid just not feeling good or not feeling shame or not.
Interesting.
I think we always just want to be good.
What's so trippy is I just did a solo podcast on individualism and its relationship to the construction of ego, aka like a separate self, separate identity. And certain Buddhist teachers have taught this, and it really is true, that this action, this verb of measurement, comparison of myself to another person is actually one of the main builders of the experience of a separate self, an ego, where it's like I am comparing myself constantly. Where am I better or am I worse?
Right.
Than all of the people around me in every way.
Yep.
The quality of their car, their clothes, you know, how bad of a sex offender are they? There's this act of comparison where through the comparison and the measurement with others, we construct this, I mean, from the Buddhist lens, the illusion of a real solid separate self. And then once you have a real me that is quote unquote better or worse, there's more of a need to prove that I'm not a failure. I'm not a loser, right?
100%. And this is what I tell my clients all the time. Or when people ask me like, why do you believe in these guys? Because if you believe in somebody, they're usually going to want to do right by you because there's hope that somebody believes in them. But if I sit here and say you're a bad person, we need identity as humans, right? So you're a bad guy. Okay, I'll go be a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I just give my clients trust. I trust that you're going to make the right decision. And even if you don't, I'm still going to go live my life.
You hold people to higher standards.
Yeah. And guess what? Most of my clients, they want to do right. They're like, oh my gosh, my therapist actually believes in me. Somebody does because nobody did growing up. And you're not looking at me like I'm the shittiest person on earth.
Yeah.
And my clients, I'm telling you, they're family men. They volunteer. They're religious guys in their church and the communities. They're starting men's groups. They're doing such great work that most people aren't doing. And everyone is too busy judging them.
To see that.
Yeah, I'm like, these guys are actually doing really good work.
Yeah. And I think you're saying something profound, which is just the effect that it sounds like expectation, just believing you can do it. You can be better. And
and they have to want it. And the thing is that they do.
And I think this is pointing to, again, the power of the mind. When we're conditioned, again, like you said, through having maybe unhealthy households growing up in that, maybe not supportive households or parents or siblings or whatever, it conditions the mind a certain way.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, we can easily develop a story where I'm a piece of shit, I'm a loser, might as well just chill in the trenches and watch child porn and, you know, do fucked up shit. Right? So it's like, if we have those higher expectations, where I always remember my dad telling me since I was tiny, he's like, you know, you can do anything you want. Just remember that no matter what you want to do, you can do it. He's like, and he would tell me that over and over again. And now I'm in this place where it's like, it's not a question for me. It's like a knowing. It's like, I know I can do anything I want. The question is, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Right?
Do you want to put in the work?
And that's like the second part of the process. First, I think, is having the belief that you can do it, that we can be better. We can heal from whatever, for instance, and then being willing to grind. And that's what I see, especially in like spiritual communities. Like so many people like, I'm just going to manifest it. I'm just going to believe. I'm just going to inhabit the consciousness of already having it and it's mine. And I'm like, do you think Kobe Bryant just inhabited the consciousness?
No, it's like discipline.
Putting in fucking hours in the gym. That's not like, that's what leads to success. All these spiritual people, it's like, that's bypassing. That's like, oh, I want it, but I don't want hard work. So I'm just going to imagine that's mine. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree with you. And I always say to my clients, do the work now or do the work later.
Yeah.
And partially what I love about this like work with like sex offense clients is you're doing a lot of like generational trauma work.
Totally. Speak more about that.
Well, sometimes when sexual abuse happens, especially in families or communities, it's like a lot of hush hush, right? We're not going to say that, or maybe it comes out later. And a lot of my clients, I don't allow them to be in that victim mentality of like, well, this happened years ago in my spiritual community and whatever. And I'm like, it's not up to you to try to prove, you know, yourself wrong or right. You need to just take ownership for the decisions and surrender to the path that now you are on for healing, and let your victim heal on her own way. But to me, to change those like generational like traumas and patterns that we're experiencing in family, so that when they have kids or they have new relationships, they're not doing that behavior that was taught to them moving forward.
So when you say the behavior that was taught to them, are you speaking about the deviance itself, or like the shame and the like suppression of it?
It could be anything from like, I don't talk about my emotions, or I'm entitled to these things, or hey, like sex abuse, I just grew up in a nudist community and that's just like what it was, and we were just like open and there weren't any boundaries. That's not an excuse. You know, you can either look back and say that wasn't healthy growing up and look at where it led me, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. I was trying to understand like where you came from, what were things that you were learning in the household maybe. Like I have a lot of clients who their fathers were forcing them to watch porn with them.
What do you mean forcing?
Hey, you're going to sit down with me and look at her ass and her tits. Don't you think that's hot? Right? So can you imagine a little boy sitting with his dad and watching porn with him? I mean, that's disgusting.
What the fuck? It's crazy.
Yeah, and then this little kid grows up thinking that's okay and that's normal, and then grows up to be an adult. So that's why I'm always saying like we need to be really paying attention to our little boys and how they're acting in schools and how they're having relationships and community building and what's happening at home for them.
Yeah. And it makes me think of two things. One, the numbness that somebody who grew up watching porn at whatever 8 years old is going to feel when they're 15 or 16. By the time I started watching porn, they're already completely numb to it.
Yeah.
By the time I'm typing in like boobies on Google, like they already feel nothing. Like it's like what's the impact of that numbness? And it makes me think of honestly one of the beautiful parts about certain religious conditioning, which is sort of pushing away that just open, fluid sexual pursuit and expression. So abstinence. Not having sex until you're married, like in Christianity. What's the beauty in that? We've lived in, I think, a culture that has pushed that away, seen, you know, the shadow of that, but recognizing there's a beauty to that. There's of holding those boundaries. And how special do you think it is when you've never had sex in your whole life, and then you find your person, and how, again, relatively speaking, how beautiful, how amazing, how like transcendent of experience must that be? And obviously there's a shadow in that, where I've heard from people who are in the like very I guess tight expression of the Christian faith, where then they have sex and there's this kind of shame around it because of the conditioning. So it's not well, and that's the balance again, right? Like, okay, if you're gonna practice abstinence and not have sex till you're married, but then you're, you know, it's okay to still be like aroused and masturbate and find people attractive and like, and I get like a lot of religious guys too, where they're not like having sex in their relationships or anything, and then they're going out and like seeking it another way, but they're not talking about it, right? Because it's like taboo in their religion. Or again, you're getting like really insecure guys in middle school. So do you know what voyeuring is? Yeah. Okay. So I'll get like a lot of clients where they're just like kind of like the nerdy guy and they couldn't get like the attractive girls, so they grow up and they do what's called voyeuring. So like kind of like a peeping Tom, you're like looking and watching them like in their rooms or shower, like you're stealing their underwear. So I'll get a lot of guys who have a collection of underwear that they took from like parties or like breaking into people's houses. And really these are, I mean, yeah, that's terrifying and that's like right, like really violent, really scary. But also like, I'll tell you, when I work with that kind of guy,
it's not really a scary guy. It's someone who's really insecure and afraid to approach a woman and afraid to have sex. So having like this article of clothing makes them feel close to them. A lot of my clients who do that, they haven't had sex and they're like in their 50s.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Maybe you don't want that part on the podcast, but like,
no, I mean, let's have it on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge, and I think that's important to talk about. Like, and what it like hurts my heart, like how beautiful like a sexual experience can be, or just that depth of connection. Because for me, what is sex but just the pinnacle of like human interpersonal connection?
It's the highest form of art.
It is. That's exactly
because you're creating
it.
life if you can.
And I think this casual objectifying relationship we have to sex is a disgrace to that art. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where like the beauty of that, and like for me, it's like some of the most beautiful relationships of my life have been the ones that are the slow burn of over years of like, are they into me? I don't know. They're in a different relationship and we're still kind of friends, and then the relationship ends and we get together, and like that's what that long-term story that turns into something so beautiful, that art, so poetic. And it hurts my heart to hear that. I mean, many people never like taste that, like really never. And it's like, where is that coming from? Pain, wounding, lack, separation, all of this like deep suffering. We could just reduce it to suffering. Yep. And it hurts. And again, so where my mind goes again is, how do we fix this? Like, and again, I tend to go to these very zoomed out places, and it's like, it's a problem of love. It's a problem of being with, of connection. We don't have it. And it's, we don't have it in little ways and big ways. Like even just the individualistic culture we live in, we don't have connection with community. No, we don't have connection with people of different age groups. Like how beautiful would it be if these kids could talk to people in their 70s and 80s for support, for people who have been there, you know what I mean? To have those places to connect where I'm not just relying on other 15-year-olds to connect with. You know what I mean?
100%.
And it's like the issue seems so deep. The fragmentation in our society that leads to the isolation, that leads to the loneliness, that leads to the sexual deviance. And it seems so big. Like what a painful situation to be in culturally.
Do you feel like you have friends that you can talk to about topics like this?
Like sexual deviance?
Yeah, or just like sex in general that's not about like objectifying a woman and like how is sex for you and oh she looks hot. Like where it's like, hey, like I feel insecure at times like in the bedroom or you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
I will say I do have some friends like that. Not many. Most of it is like that more like alpha wave of like validation through like sex or sex. I guess we could just reduce it to. and I'm hearing, or just having this reflection, I am hearing that it's like, I mean, it's this conditioning is like in me too. Yeah. Where even when we began this conversation, it shifted quite a bit, obviously, but even the topics, the language of sex and sexual deviance is like, whoa, there's a charge here. Like this is like I mean, I wouldn't say uncomfortable objectively. There's like a charge here. It's like the more we're talking about it, the less of a charge there is. And again, it's my mind thinks, what would happen if we just could speak about this stuff? What would happen to the deviance? What would happen to also the lack of connection? Where I think if we have the opportunity to talk about our shadow, and this is every kind of shadow, not just, sexual deviant shadow. Right. But when we can talk about that, it's for me an invitation into deep intimacy with other people. And that's connection. You know 100%. What I mean?
100%. And that's like, honestly, in my opinion, the only way to really heal is to really talk about the stuff that we're always like avoiding or that's like very taboo. I don't think that we actually want to talk about it in a way that's getting us there. We talk about it in like very existential and very abstract and like to what you're saying, it's like, so what do we do now? Yeah. Right. So that, again, that's why I'm passionate about men's mental health, men's groups, men's retreats, supporting athletes, you know, like especially athletes, right? Like look at all these NFL players, like they're attractive guys, they're having these parties, some of them are married, but really like how are we conditioning men? How do we objectify men's society? We'll just tell you, you'll sign up for a draft and go to war. We don't care about your body. Right? That never gets talked about is how we're actually treating men's society. Men have like the highest suicide rate. They work the most dangerous jobs. And of course, I'm passionate about like women's health and supporting women and trans people, but I'm feeling like we're forgetting about the men, and men are kind of lost now in society. I think a lot of men don't have identity because we're always saying like the white heterosexual man is bad. Well, what is he supposed to do now? What's his purpose, right? You know what he's gonna have is the people who've been oppressed. Now they're starting to oppress. Now we're gonna leave him behind. Now he's gonna have even more resentment. Right? Now he doesn't have a space to talk, and he's going to get, defensive, or people are shutting down the white guy. And I'm like, I don't want to shut down the white guy. I want the white guy to feel safe to talk so that we don't continue this like patriarchal, whatever the hell we're saying. Totally. Like, but they're also a result like of the patriarchy, and not in a good way. Right. So we need to, I think, gear towards like men's mental health.
Yeah. And I think, again, like you said, I think we need men to support men. And to get out of this bullshit frame of mind where vulnerability equals weakness, and someone's going to take advantage of you. I mean, we can actually view that as like a trauma response in a sense, right? So people have been taken advantage of or whatever, bullied by other men. And then we have this inability to open up to men. And this is that, contributing to these root problems. And it makes me want to get into more men's groups. And it makes me also want to, I am curious. Yeah, maybe I will see if I can even like shadow you or something, because I think it's so interesting just to even see what's like coming up for me in this conversation, and it's that indication of how deep this shadow goes. And I would love to just, like you said, if we turn away from it, it's gonna get worse, obviously. And getting intimate with it, starting to see this stuff, I think first it'll change it seems like it's changed your relationship to it, where it's no longer this demonized thing.
Yeah, 100%. I would say like our group sessions like are so intimate. It's my favorite thing to watch a group of men who are men who've committed sexual offenses grow together and love each other and support each other and cry together. Like, it's my favorite thing to witness, because I'm like, wow, I'm sitting in a room with people who have done like some of the worst things I have ever heard, and there's gold here.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I wish people could actually be a fly on the wall in my therapy room and see these are actually really amazing people who have transformed, truly.
And when you say there's gold here, what is that gold?
To me, it's like the real root of healing. It's someone who has gone through horrible things in their life, done horrible things, and then come out and be resilient and say, I know that what I did was awful. I'm a good person now, and I'm going to continue to be a good person. And despite the world hating me, despite you hating me, I'm still going to be good, because I want to be good and I don't want to harm anybody ever again. That's the gold. They don't need validation from anybody else, which most people won't get it. And they will not get it, and they will still move freaking forward, because there's nothing there for them to receive from anybody. They're not doing it for anyone but themselves. And I love that.
That's heat. That is that, archetypal image of the resurrection.
It's the resurrection, 100%.
Oh, this gives me chills. And it's so beautiful to see, again, people in the trenches of the trenches to be able to do that.
Yeah. Or when sometimes I work on what's called pretrial. Pretrial is you haven't gone to court yet, you haven't gone to trial, and you're just waiting your sentencing. And some of those guys do go to prison. And I just have to sit there and have them surrender and accept that I'm going to go to prison. And you know what? I deserve it. Damn. And there's peace there for me, because this is not my path, and I embrace that. And that's also like awesome for me to see. And it helps me to realize how good my life is.
For sure. It's all relative, right? And that makes me think, when they accept that they're going to prison, for instance, and the impact of that, the sort of freedom that they have when it's like, I'm going to prison because I deserve it. It makes me think of, there's a Viktor Frankl quote, which is something along the lines of, suffering ends where meaning begins. So you take this shitty experience, you're now a sex offender and you're going to prison. Sucks. And it's like, when you extract that meaning, well, I'm not going to be that ever in the future.
Yep.
Ideally, right?
Right. Yeah, I had a client who was training to be a firefighter. And like maybe 5 years ago, he raped a woman when he was blacked out drunk and had no recollection. And she came forward 5 years later, and he completely lost his dreams of being a firefighter. He was actually a really good guy. And what hurt him the most was not losing that he was going to be a firefighter, was knowing that she lived with all this pain for 5 years and didn't talk about it. And he said, I just accept that I can't be a firefighter, and I can't believe that I harmed this woman. And I had to sit with him in therapy and just have him accept that his life is changing and his identity is changing. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like for me to not be a therapist anymore. I wouldn't know what the frick to do. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is inspiring for me to sit with my clients every week who can't find jobs, can't have contact with their kids or their family, or it's restricted, or they can't find housing, or they're homeless. To come and like share. Sometimes I bring food, they share a meal together, they're supporting each other. And they're probably happier than me when I go home half the time. So it's really inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I legitimately, like, from my heart, I mean, like, thank you for doing this work. And it's something that I actually had no awareness of, because I was so blocked off. And so, yeah, thank you. And do you want to shout out yourself, what you're doing, anything you're building?
Yeah, so we've got an agency, Dignity Counseling and Wellness. It's in Niwot. I don't work with my sex offense clients there, so it's more general population, but we're going to be wanting to do like group intensives, little mini retreats, psychedelic ketamine work there. And yeah, I'll probably be hosting some men's groups, or would love to have some male therapists host the men's groups, so I'm not the only one doing it. We'll do couples therapy there, grieve, and just wanting to do more creative things in the mental health field, just something different. Cool. So yeah, we're located in Niwot. Yeah, reach out to us if you need therapy.
Awesome, Alex. Well, thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation.
Thanks.